Doing it for years.
I'm calling Geico right now.
Good idea.
Get to know Geico and see how easy homeowners and renters insurance can be.
This is a story about mail and packages. And it's also a story about people. People who rely on us every day to deliver their dreams. They're handing us more than mail. They're handing us their business. And while we make more e-commerce deliveries to homes than anyone else in the country, we never forget that your business is our business. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
1 part steak, 1 part ribs, 2 parts incredible. The new steak and ribs at Outback, $15.99 for a limited time. Get a 6-ounce sirloin and make it your own with a choice of honey sriracha, barbecue or dry rub ribs. So hurry into Outback now.
Behold the power of protein in Bird's Eye Protein Blends.
Okay.
They're delicious side dishes with the protein of beans, whole grains,
And veggies. But my work here is done.
Bird's Eye Protein Blends. So veggie good.
Make your home an ADT home and help protect against break-ins, fire, and carbon monoxide. Get our lowest rate for fast response monitoring, starting at just $28.99 a month. That's about $1 a day from the most trusted name in home security. Get ADT's tested, trusted, and proven security and service, now at a great value. Don't wait. Call today. ADT. Always there, now everywhere.
Illegal immigration, one of the themes dominating the president's focus this past week, coupled with threats of a trade war with China. President Trump is launching critical policy changes in which the president seems to be going with his instincts and perhaps against the advice of his senior aides. Thursday, the president was slated to give a speech on tax reform where he literally threw out his script.
You know, this was going to be my remarks. It would have taken about 2 minutes, but that would have been a little boring.
Joining me now to talk more about this, CNN contributor Michael D'Antonio. He is a Donald Trump biographer. Michael, you recently wrote a piece for CNN.com talking about this. What do you think is behind this week-long rant about immigration and trade?
Well, it's a number of things. The first, as we noticed in that clip, is that the president has a very low threshold for boredom himself. So I think he was really playing for the attention of the audience there. He loves to entertain. He wants to get a laugh. He wants people to applaud. The same thing happened when he commented at Mar-a-Lago about President Xi of China being president for life, and he thought, well, that wasn't such a bad thing, and everybody laughed, and oh, isn't it funny, and he got what he wanted. So on one level, that personal level, it is just him playing to the cameras and mugging and shtick. But on another level, he's definitely trying to distract us from the serious problems in the country, but many of them are self-inflicted. The trade issue is a big example of that. He blurts out that there are going to be tariffs, 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum. Then he has to follow through, and now we're in this seeming trade war that is it's ruining his stock market gains, and that was one of the things he bragged about the most.
Are you saying do you think he's bluffing on this trade war?
You know, I think he will say that he's bluffing if it turns out that it's a bad idea and we see another 500-point drop. He sent his Secretary of the Treasury out to tell people, well, there is a trade war, no, there isn't a trade war, and everyone is running in every different direction. It's going to be up to the president to pick one that he likes. But we've seen, whether it's gun policies or immigration, where he thought there was going to be a DACA deal and then he reversed himself, that he's not committed to any policy per se. He's committed to what will advance him right now. I imagine he's a shark moving through the water, chomping at one fish and then the next fish and waiting to see what comes along.
Well, what has come along to his liking or maybe displeasure. Either way, we don't know exactly because the president seems to be kind of trying to have it both ways on the issue of Scott Pruitt as embattled EPA chief. He has been entrenched in ethics concerns and controversies recently. The president tweeted about him just a few minutes ago saying this: while security spending was somewhat more than his predecessor, Scott Pruitt has received death threats because of his bold action at EPA, record clean air and water while saving USA billions of dollars. Rent was about market rate, travel expenses okay. Scott is doing a great job. Michael, what is it about Pruitt that speaks to Trump?
Well, he's doing what the president wants in terms of policy, and he's doing it very aggressively. So if we have cleaner air and water, it's because of all of the policies that were put into effect prior to the Trump administration. Now he's got the EPA really serving chemical and petrochemical interests. They see it as a pro-business agency, not as a pro-environment agency. And this is consistent with Donald Trump's promise as he took office. So he likes what Pruitt's doing. There's also another thing here that I think we have to keep in mind, is that this is almost a cultural identifier. If you say that you're skeptical about climate change, for example, you may not believe that there's anything wrong with the science, but you're signaling something about what team you're on. And Pruitt is signaling what team he's on. He's on the Trump team. He's on the far right. And this is something the president really prefers. You know, you can make a lot of mistakes and commit a lot of ethical lapses and still please him by signaling in the right way that you're his kind of guy.
Well, we've also had reported the president doesn't like negative attention brought upon his administration by members of his team. I'm wondering, though, about another promise that the president made on the campaign, and that was about draining the swamp. Does he even care about draining the swamp?
No, he never did. He doesn't really even know what that means. I think we have to consider who Donald Trump was before he became president. He was someone who lived and operated in the swampy precincts of business. He's very proud of his 4 gigantic bankruptcies and how smart that was for him to walk away from his creditors and cheat all kinds of people who invested in his firms. This is the person who created Trump University and then had to pay back all the money that people gave him. He is of the swamp himself, so it's not a surprise that he's got people with ethical problems. He's got an office of personnel that seems like a fraternity house, and they're not really even coming through with the nominees that he needs to fill his government. So the drain the swamp thing was just, again, another of these slogans that you can throw out there, like building a wall. You know, that the wall became sort of a fence, and then it became transparent, and who knows what the wall really is now. But it's more.
See, apparently the National Guard troops that are being sent to the border are going to help build it here. Michael D'Antonio, I got to leave it there for now. Thank you as always. Good to see you.
My pleasure.
We're back in a moment. I'm a fighter. Always have been. When I found out I had age-related macular degeneration, AMD, I wanted to fight back. My doctor and I came up with a plan. It includes Preservision.
Only Preservision AREDS 2 has the exact nutrient formula recommended by the National Eye Institute to help reduce the risk of progression of moderate to advanced AMD, backed by 15 years of clinical studies.
That's why I fight. Because it's my vision, Preservision.
When heartburn hits, fight back fast with Tums Smoothies. It starts dissolving the instant it touches your tongue and neutralizes stomach acid at the source. Tums Smoothies, only from Tums.
Sam, why is your head covered in bubble wrap? If I'm not covered in life insurance, you should check out PolicyGenius.com. They compare all the best insurers to help you find the right policy. So it's super easy, and like this. Compare and save with PolicyGenius.com.
If you feel like you spend too much time in the bathroom with recurring constipation and belly pain, talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Yes, Linzess. Linzess treats adults with IBS with constipation or chronic constipation. Linzess can help relieve your belly pain and lets you have more frequent and complete bowel movements. Linzess is not a laxative. It works differently to help you get ahead of your recurring constipation and belly pain. Do not give Linzess to children less than 6, and it should not be given to children 6 to less than 18. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. So say yes to help for recurring constipation. Yes to help for belly pain. Talk to your doctor and say yes, Linzess.
My time is thin, but so is my mom.
It's been worn down to ugly, thin grass. Now there's new Scott's Thicker Lawn, the revolutionary 3-in-1 solution for weak lawns. With a soil improver to strengthen roots, seed to fill in gaps, and fertilizer to feed. The result? Up to a 50% thicker lawn after just one application.
Now yard time is our time.
This is a Scott's Yard.
Hello, welcome to the Best Western Plus. I'm checking in and I'm a rewards member. Wow, that was rewarding. With points that never expire, earn a free night fast at over 4,200 hotels worldwide and get a $10 Best Western gift card with every stay. Look now at bestwestern.com.
I'm on a new journey to understand the rules of engagement in our intimate relationships. Berlin, legendarily daring.
Is it thinking?
For me, yes. Cristiano Ronaldo, Sex and Love Around the World. New episode tonight at 10.
How do you feel when you look in the mirror?
It felt heavy and I looked heavy. It hurts sometimes to believe that's me.
Do you wish you could have slimmer hips, thighs, and a flat stomach? Now you can. America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist, Sonobello, has made it easier and more affordable than ever to get the body you've always wanted. Using advanced microlaser technology, our board-certified plastic surgeons remove hard-to-lose fat in as little as 1 day.
I look in mirrors now and I'm like, dang, that girl looks good.
For your free no-obligation consultation, call 888-470-4969 and get $250 towards looking your very best.
The best investment you can make is in yourself. 100%. I wish I would have done it sooner.
Call now and get $250 off. Payment plans are available. Don't wait one more day. For a free consultation, call 888-470-4969 now.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
A powerful Republican says the U.S. military is in crisis. Congressman Mac Thornberry chairs the House Armed Services Committee. His comments come after 2 more U.S. soldiers lost their lives in a growing string of military aviation crashes. The 2 soldiers were doing routine training in their Apache military helicopter when this crash happened last night at Kentucky's Fort Campbell. A total of 7 U.S. soldiers have died in military aviation crashes in just the last month. Thornberry says, quote, "What has been evidence to me for some time is now becoming clear to the American people. The readiness of our military is at a crisis point. There can be no higher priority for the Defense Department than ensuring that our aircraft are safe and that pilots get the training they need." The father of missing 5-year-old in Tennessee has been arrested and charged with criminal homicide. Here's the 5-year-old, Joe Clyde Daniels. He was autistic and nonverbal. He was reported missing by his parents on Wednesday morning. Hundreds of volunteers have been searching for this boy over the past week. According to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, his father, Joseph Ray Daniels, was charged after investigators determined he intentionally killed his son and hid his body. Daniels is currently being held on $1 million bond. And now to a CNN exclusive. President Trump's legal team is preparing him for potential questioning by Robert Mueller. A White House official and a person familiar with this situation says this is a sign the president's legal team is intensifying its deliberations over whether to allow Trump to be questioned by the special counsel. All of this as we are learning that a Trump foreign policy advisor made efforts to find dirt on Hillary Clinton during the 2016 presidential campaign. Joseph Schmitz played a key role in the search for for Clinton's deleted emails from her private server. And CNN's chief national security correspondent Jim Sciutto has details.
CNN has learned that a Trump campaign advisor played a key role in an effort to find Hillary Clinton's 30,000 deleted emails on the dark web.
Wow.
And reveal any damaging information contained within them.
It's not easy being a whistleblower.
Joseph Schmitz, a former Department of Defense Inspector General, was a foreign policy advisor to the campaign. Seen here seated at a table with then-candidate Trump in March 2016. Meeting with officials at the FBI, State Department, and the intelligence community's Inspector General, he told them a source he called Patriot had discovered what he believed were the deleted emails on the dark web. Schmitz then pushed for the government to review and declassify the material, so he and others could review it without jeopardizing Schmitz's security clearance. All this according to multiple sources with direct knowledge. Officials at the State Department and Inspector General briefly interviewed Schmitz, but they declined to review or accept the information. The FBI also interviewed him as part of its ongoing criminal investigation into Clinton's emails.
It did investigate.
Schmitz then took his information to the House Intelligence Committee. This is the latest example of Trump advisors mixed up in efforts to find dirt on Clinton. Fired Chief Strategist Steve Bannon told the House Intelligence Committee in February that Trump campaign staff were repeatedly contacted by outsiders suggesting ways to get the Clinton emails. This according to a source familiar with Bannon's testimony. A Trump campaign official tells CNN, quote, the campaign does not comment on matters of interest to the special counsel or the congressional committees. The material was never verified. A cybersecurity expert who also saw the material on the dark web told CNN it appeared to be fake based on what he read and where it was posted. I'm pretty sure they were posted on the dark web equivalent of Reddit, he said. Schmitz, reached by CNN in person and via email, declined to comment.
Again, Jim Sciutto reporting for us. Now, President Trump takes action on global trade and border security as another cabinet shakeup could be in the works. A member of the president's own party weighs in, and Senator Susan Collins joins Jake exclusively tomorrow morning on State of the Union. That's at 9 Eastern here on CNN. Stay with us.
AT&T provides edge-to-edge intelligence covering virtually every part of your manufacturing business. And so this won't happen because you've made sure this sensor and this machine are integrated. And she can talk to him. And yes, some people assign genders to machines. And you can be sure you won't have any problems, except for the daily theft of your data. AT&T provides edge-to-edge intelligence. It can do so much for your business, the list goes on and on. That's the power of and this shipment will be delivered.
You wouldn't accept an incomplete job from anyone else. So why accept it from your allergy pills? Most pills don't finish the job because they don't relieve nasal congestion. Flonase allergy relief is different. Flonase relieves sneezing, itchy, watery eyes, and a runny nose, plus nasal congestion, which pills don't. Flonase helps block 6 key inflammatory substances. Most pills only block 1, and 6 is greater than 1. Start your day with Flonase for more complete allergy relief. Flonase, this changes everything.
Here's the story of Green Mountain Coffee Roasters Sumatra Reserve. Let's go to Sumatra. The coffee here is amazing because the volcanic soil is amazing. So we give farmers like Vin more plants to grow more delicious coffee, which helps provide for Vin's family. All for a smoother tasting cup of coffee. Green Mountain Coffee Roasters.
Every stay is a special stay at Holiday Inn. Save up to 15% when you book early at HolidayInn.com.
Having moderate to severe plaque psoriasis is not always easy. It's a long-distance ride, and you have the determination to keep going. Humira has a proven track record of being prescribed for over 10 years. It's the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists. More than 250,000 patients have chosen Humira to fight their psoriasis, and they're not backing down. For most patients, clearer skin is the proof.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Join over 250,000 people who have chosen Humira. Ask your dermatologist about Humira and go.
We can't stay here.
Why?
Flat toilet paper. I'll never get clean.
ahead of you. Charmin Ultra Strong. It cleans better. It's 4 times stronger, and you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
This was a war against religion. The Vatican knew what was going on.
This was a Christian society that couldn't live with this.
The question is, what do we think the Pope should have done?
So, tomorrow at 10 on CNN. It's a noisy, chaotic, confusing world. If only everyone could see it more clearly. Separate fake from fact. If only we all understood what's really going on. The world needs another Economist reader. And now you can try The Economist in print, free of charge. Visit free.economist.com, call 1-855-500-0015, or text Economist to 99000.
Innovation is an ever-evolving journey. It stretches our creative vision, pushes us beyond the ordinary, makes the impossible possible. Along the way, we invent the means to make our lives brighter, safer, cleaner. Put the Gaslight power of GreenWorks tools in your gas and lead the charge.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Closed captioning brought to you by OnlyMeso.com.
We offer a free book on mesothelioma. Call for the free book and receive so much more. Call 1-800-831-3700.
Tonight, a new episode of Sex and Love Around the World premieres on CNN. That's at 10 p.m. Eastern. And Cristiano Amanpour takes us to Berlin, the carnal capital of Europe, to see how the city's newcomers are cracking the code on love, sex, and intimacy.
I've reported on people fleeing war and crisis throughout my career, and I've always wanted to ask about how they manage to maintain what makes us all human. Relationships, love, and intimacy. All 3 generations of this family are sharing this small space, and privacy is scarce. You've got a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, you've got a new daughter coming. I just want to ask you one personal woman question. Here you are, in one room, in a camp, and you have to have husband-wife relations. You're pregnant. How difficult is it to do that here with everybody in the same room and what?
It's a good question, but I don't know if you get the answer. میگه شما که حالا در کم حامله شدیم
آنجا بودیم که خانه داده دیگه
So in this room you got pregnant?
آنجا بودیم
از من سوال نکنه. I sat down with Cristiano for a fascinating conversation. Watch.
You know, sex and sexuality is not taboo, that there's a naked culture in Germany and other parts of Europe where it is completely normal to spend most of your life naked, not your work life.
So did you participate?
Well, I did engage in naked ping pong, but you're going to have to watch the episode to know how much I disrobed compared to my partners across the table.
You know, on a serious note, though, we've seen and we've covered in our day-to-day news the refugee crisis, and there has been a large refugee population that has come to Germany and settled there. Of course, the majority of them come from Muslim nations originally, and so they have more of a conservative view when it comes to sexuality. How are they integrating into a much more liberal, sexually liberal community?
Well, it is a real collision of very liberal European culture and very conservative Islamic culture. And the Germans, to their credit, and the refugees, to their credit, have taken to these mandatory lessons and classes, particularly for the men, because it's not just conservatism around sexuality. There is no such thing as gender equality in their countries. So the Germans have imposed, like many of the European countries, these mandatory gender and sex classes, sex ed classes. That was fascinating to watch. I'm sure the viewers are just going to be blown away by that. I mean, to an extent, there's what this is what that organ is, and that is what that bodily part is, but there's also the talk around consent. very important in the Me Too, the talk around fulfilling your woman or your partner. You know, not just banging away at sex, but actually making it an intimate, loving experience. These boys are sitting there, they'd never heard the word orgasm. They literally didn't know what that meant. In a more poignant way, I talked to a young Afghan refugee woman in what we call the refugee center, which was a school that Berlin had opened to these refugees. She was in her very early 20s, pregnant with her third child. And when I asked her about happiness, and did she feel able to ask her husband to satisfy her, she looked at me as if I was talking double Dutch. She looked at me with horror. And then,
like, couldn't even imagine.
Couldn't even imagine it. Yeah. And then an older counterpart who'd been there for longer said, you know what, it's subversive of you to ask these questions to these people who have never even considered that they deserve happiness. I mean, imagine that. It is so mind-blowing. This series is so cool.
Fascinating.
On that level. But her daughters are going to grow up in Europe with their rights, with their needs, and their knowledge of what they can have as a woman.
Can't you just feel the passion oozing from Christiane Amanpour? Sex and Love Around the World. It's tonight at 10, only on CNN. I'm Monica Berg in New York. Thank you for spending part of this very busy Saturday with me. CNN's American Dynasties, The Kennedys, starts now.
The American people have entrusted the power of the White House to John F. Kennedy. Since then, the
Todos somos diferentes.
Cada uno de nosotros tiene sus propios sueños. Eso es lo que nos hace poderosos. No importa si nos discriminan, si nos ponen barreras. O sea, todos quieren mucho.
Unidos tenemos la fuerza para enfrentarlo. ¡Estamos unidos!
Mi Familia Perfecta premieres Monday, April 9th at 8/7 Central on Telemundo.
Tonight, more damaging headlines for EPA Chief Scott Pruitt. News he spent millions on security and travel, but flew coach when it was on his own dime. Plus, on a week that brought the first sentencing of prison time in the Russia investigation, and word of a forthcoming report from Robert Mueller, a look at the legal advice being offered up to Donald Trump. And from surprise policy announcements to staff issues and a steep dive in the stock market, the wild week in this Trump White House. The 11th hour on a Friday night begins now. Good evening once again from our NBC News headquarters here in New York. I'm Katie Turk, filling in for Brian Williams tonight. Day 442 of the Trump administration, and the White House is facing mounting pressure to do something about EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt. He's been under fire for ethics issues and outsized spending. Among those issues, massive raises for two of his closest aides and his rental of a Capitol Hill condo tied to a lobbyist who represents energy clients. Pruitt met with President Trump today, originally to discuss his agency's recent efforts to roll back Obama-era fuel efficiency standards for cars, but it seems that the topic of his future was also on the agenda. The Associated Press reports that during his meeting with the president, Pruitt laid out his case for why he should continue in his job.
The AP also reports that Pruitt spent millions of dollars for a 20-member full-time security detail that is 3 times the size of his predecessors. Both the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times say Chief of Staff John Kelly has urged Trump to fire Pruitt, but Trump has been resistant. This morning, the president sent out a tweet of support for Pruitt and said he was doing a great job while being totally under siege. The White House backed that up at today's briefing.
No one other than the president has the authority to hire and fire members of his cabinet. It's a decision that he'll make. And right now I don't have any personnel announcements. The president feels that the administrator has done a good job at EPA. He's restored it back to its original purpose of protecting the environment. It's gotten unnecessary regulations out of the way. And we're continuing to review any of the concerns that we have.
The White House is closing out this week with new and growing concerns about the future of the economy. Markets took a tumble today, the sell-off largely triggered by concerns about the president's latest threat to impose tariffs on an additional $100 billion in Chinese imports. China had already vowed to strike back after the president made his first proposal for tariffs, and today Beijing again promised retaliation. So are we starting a trade war? Americans got mixed signals from the Trump administration.
I'm not saying there won't be a little pain. We may take a hit, and you know what? Ultimately, we're going to be much stronger for it. But it's something we had to do.
We're not running a trade war. Nothing implemented.
But what do you say to who are afraid? What if there's a countermeasure and it could? Because truly some are scared.
Stay with us. Stay with us. This is a growth-oriented administration.
We're in the period that before the tariffs go on. We'll continue to have discussions, but there is the potential of a trade war.
Meanwhile, there were developments on the legal front for the president. It was reported that he is not a target, but a subject in the Russia probe. We learned Mueller is taking a closer look at Trump's business partners, including his personal attorney, Michael Cohen. Yes, that Michael Cohen, the one who paid a porn star $130,000 in hush money. We also heard the president speak for the first time about Daniels and that payment. That last question, and as if this White House wasn't juggling enough, this was also the week the administration announced it was sending National Guard troops to the U.S.-Mexican border. Secretary of Defense Mattis has given the okay, and they're expected to deploy starting tonight. Here to talk with us is Carol Lee, NBC News national political reporter, Tolu Olorunnipa, White House correspondent for Bloomberg, and with us from Washington, Matthew Nussbaum, White House reporter for Politico. Welcome, everyone. Carol, beyond the fact that Scott Pruitt is doing what Donald Trump wants, rolling back regulations, why is the president content to keep him on board after all of the scandals we've been seeing in the last few months, especially the last week?
Well, a couple things. One, he's not just doing what he wants in terms of regulations and other things. There's a lot of support still for Pruitt among the president's base. Second, this is not someone who would be on the president's list of cabinet officials that he may be okay with or kind of want to see go or not really feel strongly one way or the other. This is someone he likes, and he's a little bit defiant. You know, he does not like, as you know better than anyone, to be told what to do, to feel pressure from the media, from his critics to do something, and he's digging at his heels a little bit.
With Dave Price, certainly. He's faced that with other decisions he's made.
Well, but Tom Price was not getting the job done in his view.
Dave Price is the weather weatherman at WNBC. Sorry for that confusion. But I mean, just take a look at the headlines on EPA Chief Scott Pruitt. He demanded a 24-hour-a-day security detail, spent millions on that travel with security as well, installed a $25,000 soundproof phone system in his office, proposed spending $70,000 to replace desks. One was apparently bulletproof, had no idea why you'd need that. Flew first class at a cost of more than $100,000, plus charter and military flights. explored hiring a private jet at a cost of $100,000 a month, stayed at a townhouse owned by the wife of a lobbyist at a rate of $50 a night, wanted to use sirens and lights to expedite trips to places like Le Diplomat in Washington, a hot place to have dinner, asked subordinates to help find housing, violating ethics rules, apparently used a loophole to boost pay for subordinates, exiled internal critics of his spending and leadership to new jobs or demoted them. Politico called him the Cato Kalin of Washington, D.C. for basically not leaving that $50 a night rental. I mean, this is a lot. And the West Wing staff is already turning on him. How does this make the president look right now?
Well, this is the president who campaigned on draining the swamp. This is very much swamp-like behavior. And probably Pruitt's biggest sin with the president was that he went and did an interview on Fox News, and he did not really represent himself very well. The president likes people who do well on TV. Pruitt did not do very well. He did not look like he had full control over his agency or over the facts behind all of the various scandals that he's faced over the last few weeks. And it seems like every day there's a new story. Today, multiple stories sort of targeting all the negative headlines. And I talked to a White House official earlier this week, and they said, obviously, the president does not like these headlines, but at the same time, the president does realize that it's going to be difficult for him to continue shuffling his cabinet. He's already gotten rid of at least 2 cabinet secretaries. We have at least 3 cabinet confirmation fights that are ahead of us, and if he keeps getting rid of cabinet secretaries, he's going to have a very difficult time filling those positions in a Senate that's 51 Republicans and 49 Democrats. So the president's hands are somewhat tied in this situation, and he is hearing from his outside advisors, from his base. He said yesterday that he was just in West Virginia, and the people in West Virginia love Scott Pruitt. So that's probably what's driving it more than anything else, the fact that the base is on board with this guy.
Matthew, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times both reporting that Kelly, Chief of Staff John Kelly, asked the president or told the president that Scott Pruitt needs to go. The president has rebuffed him, at least as of now. Does John Kelly have any influence in this White House?
It looks like Kelly's influence is really fading fast, and I think we're seeing that more all the time. We've seen the president's more emboldened to put together the team that he said he wanted all along, getting rid of folks like Rex Tillerson, and he's more comfortable making moves that a lot of people within this administration and within the Republican Party are pushing against, like these tariffs and this potential trade war with China. So I think you see a guy like John Kelly who came in and really brought order to this operation after Reince Priebus. Donald Trump doesn't like being told no, and I think maybe saying no a few too many times has really limited Kelly's influence. On top of that, there are a few things this president enjoys more than undoing Barack Obama's agenda, and that's sort of what Scott Pruitt's been up to since day one. So as much as these negative headlines pile up, Pruitt's been doing what the president's wanted him to do, and like Carol said, the president doesn't like folding to outside pressure, so I don't think negative headlines are going to hurt Scott Pruitt as much as they might have perhaps a few months ago when the president was less confident of just blazing his own path here.
He might be the cabinet secretary responsible for undoing the majority of the Obama legacy and the Obama regulations, so he's got that going for him. Turning to the Mueller investigation, are we getting closer to the president sitting down with Robert Mueller?
It sure seems like the negotiations or discussions, whatever you want to call them, between the president's legal team and Robert Mueller are getting somewhere and potentially could be coming to a conclusion at some point soon. The question is whether or not, we know there are those among the president's advisors who think he should not under any circumstances whatsoever ever sit for an interview with Robert Mueller. But the president has shown that he really wants to do that. And so, I think it's who wins that fight, we don't really know, but there are reports that he started to at least have some very initial preparations for what that might be like.
Is there anybody in the White House that's talking to the president right now, sitting him down and saying, hey, listen, you've got 2 things unfolding at the same time. You've got this Mueller investigation, which is still ongoing. You're going to have to sit with Mueller at some point or find a reason to say why you're not going to sit with Mueller. You've also got this Stormy Daniels case that's unfolding, which you are now contributing to by answering a reporter's question about it. It had died down, now it's back in the news. Is anybody telling him why it might be problematic for those 2 things to happen at the same time?
Yeah, we don't really, it's hard to, This is not a White House where you get the sense that there are people who sit the president down and tell him hard truths, that speak to him in those kinds of very frank, candid ways. The number of people who do that seems to be diminishing by the day. However, clearly the president is well aware that the Stormy Daniels and the Mueller investigation issues are hanging over his presidency and could be big problems for him. It's just we don't know how he's going to, in the end, choose to handle that.
There's also the stock market taking a big dive today. Larry Kudlow started on Monday in this administration. It seems like, from all we've seen of him, that he's basically been camped out on the driveway at the White House, just answering reporters' questions and trying to tamp down on what the president might be saying to reporters overnight, or saying in interviews, or tweeting about this escalation in this tariff war between China and the U.S. What is going to happen? Is this just a lot of bluster and big talk from this president, or are we going to end up enacting really steep tariffs against the other big power in the world?
Yeah, that's part of the reason Larry Kudlow was hired, because the president saw him on TV and thought he was doing a great job and decided to bring him into the White House. Now his role seems to be going a lot on TV from the White House North Lawn and trying to calm the markets after the president tweets something or makes a statement or unveils a policy, which Larry Kudlow said he found out about shortly before the public, in terms of new tariffs that could roil the markets and really lead to a trade war. And he has a pretty large task on his hand trying to calm the markets when the president is really doing the opposite, really trying to stir up the markets, trying to stir up what looks like a trade war with the Chinese, saying that trade wars are good and easy to win, and showing that he has no fear and going tit for tat with China, despite the fact that China is taking us on and really pushing back very strongly against the U.S. and against the actions that we've taken. So I'm not sure that Larry Kudlow will be able to keep up this act for much longer, saying that just be calm, nothing's going to happen, this is all about a negotiation, when the president doesn't seem to be wanting to negotiate. He wants to hit China very hard with very large tariffs.
I love trying to wrap up a week like this for the 15 minutes for an A block on a newscast. At the end of the week, we have already talked about Scott Pruitt, we've talked about Robert Mueller, Stormy Daniels, we're talking about tariffs and the stock market crashing. We haven't even gotten yet to what's happening down at the border, which dominated a good part of this week. News now that Secretary Mattis is going to send 4,000 troops to the border, Matthew?
That's right. It's easy to see how that sort of fell off the radar with everything else that's going on. But this sort of stems from the president's anger over not getting money in the omnibus to get that wall construction going. And we know his obsession with the border quite well. So he sees this as a way to try to tighten things down there without a wall, deploying large amounts of National Guard troops, perhaps in response to some Fox News reporting about border crossings. But again, this is a way for him to say he's taking action on the issues that are most important to him and his base, even though his long-promised solution, the wall, doesn't really seem to be coming together quite yet.
So Matthew, big question, what's on the agenda next week?
That's always a great question. I think they're eager to push a few legislative items along with those confirmations that were mentioned. The Dodd-Frank repeal is something they'd like to get done, and VA choice legislation. But look, you guys know as well as anyone that what the president tweets on Monday morning and whoever gets fired or whoever gets indicted is going to set the tone a lot more than any specific plans the White House has.
Let's be honest, whatever the president tweets on Sunday morning is going to start driving the Newsweek. Carol, staying with us, Tulu and Matthew, thank you very much, appreciate it. And coming up on the Mueller front, the advice being offered to Donald Trump from an informal legal team of friends on TV. And later, for a president who loves to tout market gains, there's no denying today was a rough day. The 11th hour, just getting started on a Friday night.
What pushes us further than our best?
Is it a competition?
Or a personal test? Or perhaps it's a hybrid of both. Your best is always ahead. Because
shit, hang on. Oh yeah, I love her. Fucking missing Judge Janine.
New way. From the very first time I looked out the window, I felt like this is significant.
One Strange Rock. New episodes, Mondays at 10 on National Geographic.
Developing tonight, President Trump blasting the DOJ and FBI in a series of tweets, one of which reads as follows. Lawmakers of the House Judiciary Committee are angrily accusing the Department of Justice of missing the Thursday deadline for turning over unredacted documents relating to FISA abuse, FBI, Comey, Lynch, McCabe, Clinton emails, and much more. Slow walking. What is going on? Bad. My next guest is as fed up as the president and me, and demanding action too. House Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows joins us this evening. And Congressman, thanks for being with us.
It's great to be with you.
Don't you love working on Saturday nights too?
You know, hey, most Americans work on Saturday nights.
They do, including yours truly. All right, look, the president is fed up. I hear there's 1.2 million documents. You guys have been demanding them for months and months and months, and now you had a return on the execution of, return on a warrant. They gave you nothing.
They gave us absolutely nothing. The president's right to be frustrated. I'm frustrated, but you know what? Enough with the talk.
So what are you going to do?
You know, here's the next two things that we have to do. Is we've given a very short deadline. I've given a deadline of this week. We need to see the documents.
But the deadline was Thursday.
The easiest thing for them to do at this particular point, Rod Rosenstein can call Michael Horowitz, who has the documents, and say, just give them to Congress. If he doesn't do that, if he's, and you're right, he avoided the subpoena, the deadline came and went, all we got was a phone call, and I think what we have to do is, there is a growing consensus of holding them in contempt of Congress, but it's not enough to just stop there. We have to have someone who is actually willing to do the job, and if the Deputy Attorney General is not willing to do it, and not willing to allow us to have our constitutional oversight authority supported, then we'll find someone who can.
Well, does that mean you guys are going to get rid of Rod Rosenstein?
I think that if he does not turn over the documents, that there are a growing number of us on Capitol Hill who believe that someone else needs to do the job.
All right.
And what happens there is we've got, constitutionally, we have some things that we can do.
Well, look, you know what? Look, as far as I'm concerned, and I come from a different area. I come from law enforcement. You know, you don't respond to a subpoena. You get a search warrant. You go in with whatever you need, and you get what you want. Like they did to Paul Manafort. This guy, it's 5 in the morning. They don't send him a letter and say please. They don't do a press conference. They don't then send him a subpoena. They go in and get it. What do you guys need to do?
Well, therein is part of the problem is we've got the Department of Justice and the FBI that are the ones that are obstructing this, the very law enforcement agencies.
And they're obstructing it because it will show what?
Well, I can tell you what we have found already. We have found a number of documents that would indicate that there was coordination with the White House, coordination with the Obama White House, coordination with the State Department. So it goes well beyond what we know. And here's the problem. The reason why we know that is because we've taken those unredacted documents and actually gone over and figured out what it said behind the redactions. And these are the things that the DOJ and the FBI have been hiding from members of Congress, and they've been hiding it for 4 months.
You know, when the Department of Justice, our Department of Justice, Donald Trump is the president, they resist handing over Hillary Clinton's emails because they say she's a private citizen. You know the deep state, the shadow government is running things.
Well, you not only see that, Judge, here's the other thing. It's the speed of which they started investigating candidate Donald Trump, now President Trump, was at warp speed. Nothing happens fast in this city, and yet they went ahead and moved unbelievably fast to investigate this president during a campaign. And if it was coordinated in any part by the White House, we already know that Brennan was briefing John Brennan of the CIA was briefing Harry Reid alone in August, during August recess, and then there was this mysterious letter that came after that. But there's just too many coincidences, and what I am here to tell you is I'm fed up. I've had enough. My good friend Jim Jordan is fed up. I talked to him earlier today. We're going to not only demand answers, but we're going to demand action.
Today is Saturday.
Yeah.
By next Friday, if you don't get what you want,
I think what you'll see is not just Jim and I, but Chairman Nunes, a number of others will actually go to really those areas that we have within our purview under the Constitution to compel them to actually.
And if they don't, how do you get rid of Rosenstein?
Well, I think the first area is really a contempt of Congress, but certainly
When Eric Holder was held in contempt of Congress, nothing happened.
One of the things that we have at a tool in our toolbox is impeachment. It's a privilege motion. Any member of Congress can do that.
All right, I like that. Did you hear that, folks? Impeachment. Congressman Mark Meadows, thanks so much for being with us tonight. Good to see you. All right, and the outrageous comments of the week with my guest David Bossie still ahead. And next, Sarah Carter and David Tafuri join here live to talk about immigration, security, and more. The panel is